Okay, we're here today interviewing Ceil Leedom, who is a longtime South Brunswick resident and township historian. This interview is taking place in the Ceil Leedom archive on December 19th, 2019. The first question we have is about home life. Where and when were you born? Where were you born?
I was born in Baltimore, Maryland,
Baltimore?
at University Hospital, 10/5/40.
10-5 what?
10/5, 1940.
Okay. And so Baltimore. So what are your memories of? How long were you there in Baltimore?
I was there instantaneously. My parents lived in Chestertown, Maryland.
Oh, okay. And how far is that away?
It was over the Chesapeake Bay,
Uh-huh.
and then they lived there for 3 years, additionally 3 years. And then I moved down to Washington, D.C.
Oh, you lived in D.C.
It was the beginning of the war.
Okay.
And my father got permission to leave his college position and apply for work at the NRL. NRL.
What's NRL?
I don't know.
National Research Library. So where was he? He was a teacher or professor, you said, at a college?
Yes, he was a professor at physics at Washington College
Oh,
in
okay.
Chestertown, Maryland.
Wow. So he didn't have to go over, he switched jobs, but he didn't actually have to serve over abroad or anything during the
No,
war.
he was old enough.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
Okay.
And so what about your mother? Can you tell me a little bit about her?
She worked in various capacities, volunteer work.
Mm-hmm.
She got some paid work in the ammunition factory.
Oh, so she worked for the war effort.
Right.
Okay. So was that unusual at the time for a woman to work outside of the house?
Well, no, because a lot of women did during World War II.
Right, to support the effort. Okay. And what about the rest of your family?
My sister was 17 years older than I am. So she was going to college there. And she graduated and then married. And she went out of my life. But I don't remember her.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have any other siblings?
No.
Okay, so it was you and your sister. And so your parents chose to live in that part, in that area because of the work, right? Because your
Right.
father was
Right.
a professor. Okay. Do you have contact with any relatives from?
No, but they're all dead.
Oh, because it was okay. So it was a while back. Okay.
Right.
And was English the main? Was there any other language that was spoken in the
No.
house? It was just English. Okay.
Right.
And do you have where is your ancestry? Do you have stories, or have you heard stories from anything from the old country, from Europe, or anything like that,
No.
or even before you were there
No.
in the Baltimore area? No. Okay. So that makes it simple. And just tell me a little bit about the house you grew up in. Tell me about what it was like, and
Well,
the amenities that you have now that you didn't have then. The differences.
I moved to Willow Grove, Pennsylvania,
Okay.
because my father got another job after the war, and he moved up to Pennsylvania from Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And I took more of an interest in the surroundings that I was living in.
Well, because you were a little bit older too, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, as far as the house, like, what was different back then? As far as
We
that.
didn't have a dishwasher.
No dishwasher. Okay. What about a telephone?
My mother went to work when I was about 11 or 12, 13, and she worked in a candy store, but she didn't have a car, so she walked to work. It was about a mile.
Okay, that's a pretty long walk
Right.
just to get to work.
But a lot of women did that.
Yeah. So there was a car in the family, but that's your father. You
Right.
used to have to get to work. Okay. Yeah, I remember even hearing that from my mother too. So did you each have your own room in the house? I mean, how
We
would
had our own room.
you had your own space? And how was the house heated? Do you remember that?
Probably gas.
Yeah. So it
Yes.
was okay. So that's it's not like the old coal furnaces where you had to go down
We
there and
did have
shovel.
a big coal furnace that had been converted to a gas.
Okay. So it's a lot nicer.
Right.
Did you have a garden at home?
Yes, we had a garden, but I think that was quickly phased out when my mother went to work.
Yeah, I didn't have time for that, right?
Right.
So of course you didn't have animals then.
No, well, we had a dog.
You had a dog, okay.
We They had a dog in Washington College, and they died in Washington D.C. And they got another dog when I was probably 10 or 11.
Mm-hmm.
So it was named Penny.
Teddy?
Penny.
Penny? Okay, that's a good name.
Okay.
As a child growing up, do you remember having a favorite meal that your mother made?
Iced tea
Uh-huh.
and lemon meringue pie.
So iced tea and lemon meringue. It sounds pretty good. Vacations. Did your family go on vacations? I imagine, during the war they probably wouldn't have, but
Well, they probably went to the war, but I don't remember.
mm,
I was too young, and but they did go on vacations to Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Because my mother lived in Lexington.
Okay.
My grandmother lived in Lexington.
And that's a little bit of a drive.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um.
And we remember, no, you had individual rooms. So you had individual places where you stayed, and they were built like cottages.
Oh, okay. So you each had like a separate place.
Right.
Oh, that's
Or you had rooms that were in a house, a tourist home.
Sounds nice. Sounds nice. Tell me about what role religion played in your house, if any.
I went to Willow Grove Methodist Church.
Ooh, okay. Methodist
And
Church.
that's all I remember.
Well, that's good. What about friends from back then?
Well, we lived on an edge of a school district, so
Okay.
across the street was another school district.
Oh, kind of
So-
like Franklin over here in South Brunswick. Okay.
And we didn't have a lot of contact because they went to a different school.
Because they're on the edge. Yeah, you're right on the edge. Okay, that's interesting.
Okay.
Okay. So how did you get to school, and what schools did you
I
attend?
took a bus to school.
You took a bus because you, like we said, you're on the edge of the district. Okay.
Right.
So you were bused. Okay. And how did you get around? I mean, for example, did you walk to your church? Was that something right in the community?
No, we took the car to the church, but I walked around because the school was probably a mile away. And I don't remember. I do remember the bus route, but that was very long ago.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so when your parents went out for shopping for groceries and other things, so that was something that was done in the town, right? It wasn't too
Right.
far away.
Well, I remember seeing co-op because my name was Coop.
Right.
So
Right,
I
right,
thought
right.
the co-op was a place we could go shopping.
So co-op,
Yes,
that's the name of the shopping
the shopping center.
The shopping center was Co-op. Okay.
And there was Shirlington. There was a place where we could go to shop in Washington, D.C. And we had a great lot of kids around, and I had a lot of friends.
Oh, good, good. So what kind of special places do you go to? I know you were right outside of D.C., right? So, I mean, that must have been a frequent trip that you took since.
Right.
How far were you in D.C. or just outside of it?
We outside of
Okay.
D.C.
Like in Arlington or somewhere farther than that?
Well,
It was
you
Maryland.
wouldn't think it now, but it was considered the highway ended about where we were living.
Okay, okay.
It's because it was put on hold while the war was fraught.
Okay. Okay. So what did your parents do as far as socializing? What did they do?
They were, I don't know what they did, but they were very active in the Willow Grove Methodist. No, the Fairlington Methodist Church.
Okay, so they were involved socially with the
Right.
church activities.
Right.
Okay. So what was your first job as a teenager, or your first job?
Well, probably babysitting.
Babysitting? Okay.
I got different amounts of pay for babysitting, and I also worked for the library. I was a shelver.
Oh yeah, so you shelved books in the library.
Right.
And sometimes I see you do that now still.
Right. Well, yes. And
it's
I
important.
worked also as a trade worker, so I could work. The hospital was nearby,
Mm-hmm.
so I took we had special uniforms we could wear, and we helped the patients with their dinner.
Okay. So you
Okay.
assisted. You assisted the hospital patients.
Right.
Okay.
And I also did dancing.
Oh, that's right. Right. So
Right.
so you were involved from back then, right?
Right.
Because I know
So-
that you were involved with it. You know.
Right. So I went probably the same studio for 10 years.
Wow.
Right.
So that what kind of dancing? I know.
Ballet, tap, and whatever.
Well, that's really a good way to keep fit, right?
Well, my sister was a dancing teacher,
Oh, okay.
and she pursued the dancing arts in Lexington and in the college town. She went to Chestertown.
So that's a different kind of dancing. I mean, I'm just thinking about when people say dance today, it means something different. Like
Right.
that type of dance is
Right.
a little bit more strenuous.
Right.
Now, where did you go? Where did you live when you first got married?
Warminster, Pennsylvania.
Okay, so you're up here already. Not up here, but I mean up north a little bit. So
Right.
Warminster, that's not terribly far from here.
Well, we looked at various houses, and we decided on one,
Mm-hmm.
and my husband bought it, and then we got married, and then we changed the ownership to both of us.
Just as a comparison, though, do you happen to remember what the price was for the house?
$17,000.
$17,000, and yeah, you can almost, yeah, I guess you can get kind of a car these days for $17,000, and it had probably.
Right. Well, my husband
bedrooms.
made $8,000, and that was, we had to stretch whatever we could
So
to
it's
make that.
okay. So yeah, I
And
think
we
salaries.
didn't have
were
a
different.
dishwasher.
Yeah, no dishwasher.
Right. We've got that when my youngest son was 4 years old.
Okay. Well, since you're talking about children, tell me about your children and who they are, and how, for example, how you even picked their names if you remember. So tell me about your children.
David was, we picked common names because we had unusual names. We didn't like that, apparently.
So you
So-
you wanted to go for more commonplace names. You feel that your name was unusual, and you wanted.
Right, so we named David Allen. He was a middle name of the same middle name that my husband had.
Mm-hmm.
We named James John. No, I don't know whether he was John or James Harvey, because he was, James was a family name.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we did pick Kenneth out of the air.
So you had three sons.
Right.
3 sons. Okay. Okay. So when you had your children, were you in South Brunswick, or when did you come to South Brunswick?
69,
Okay.
and that was before, the youngest child was 4 years old.
Okay. So the youngest is 4.
So the
So-
olders were older.
Yeah, but they still went to school here then.
Right.
Okay.
Then they went to Monmouth Junction. Even though I lived across the road, Route 1, I went to Monmouth Junction.
They went to the. You lived across from Route 1.
Right.
Okay.
In those days, they had different redistricting.
Okay. So they changed it. Yeah, that makes sense. They changed the district.
Right.
But and now, I mean, you're a grandparent. Tell me what it's like to be a grandparent.
Well, we don't have any grandchildren that live nearby,
Right.
but they live far. They don't